my experience so far with NFTs, I downloaded some apps a while back. Like I tried to follow this online tutorial, and that actually got me nowhere for two reasons. I think one was that the account had to be open in certain countries, and I didn't see my country on the list. That was like for the payment. So I think I gave up on that process because it wasn't on the list. Not gave up, I just paused it. Then so that was like my as far as I downloaded all the software. I think there was Rainbow and there was a Meta something. There's a Fox. Fox as the logo.
MetaMask, yeah.
MetaMask, yeah, I got that as well. So that's as far as what's it called? I've gone with it, just downloading the apps and trying to get it set up. And I ran into that roadblock.
Hello everyone, welcome yet to another episode of NewForum. NewForum brings together leaders, creators, new starters, and new perspectives on crypto, the metaverse, NFTs, social 3, and DAOs.
NewForum is powered by Newcoin Foundation and provides humanized and organic ways for thinkers to coordinate in order to ensure the conscious and ethical growth of a new web, embedding the values of care, freedom, and creativity. Today's episode focuses on my very own friend, Dela Anyah, a Ghanaian contemporary artist. He uses found items as his principal medium to create paintings and sculptures and installations. He explores topics on identity, varied societal and environmental issues. Hello, Dela. We are super excited to have you on today's episode.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Certainly.
So, Dela, to start it off, Dela, could you tell us a bit about yourself and your creative work as a fine artist?
Okay, so about myself, as you mentioned, I'm a Ghanaian contemporary artist born in Accra, and I began art at a young age, but then I kind of like began professionally about 8 years ago, and I'm inspired by upcycled materials, rubbish, things that have an aged feel, things that have been discarded, things that I guess people don't find any value in, but seem to have a certain beauty or quality in them. And I think it comes from my upbringing. Like growing up, my grandma from my dad's side used to sell firewood and charcoal, and they had a farm as well. And I think growing up there, I used to see a lot of these things, like the jute sacks and things that I now use. I used to find them in those places, and I used to play around them. So I think later on in life, I found some beauty in them, like not just in playing with them, but then incorporating that in my work, because these are places that you would generally not see as beautiful. But then there was a way of, creating beauty out of all that seemed to be chaos in that place. And then on my other grandmother's side, she was a teacher and an art teacher, a Ghana teacher. And going there as well, she always gave me crayons and all of that, crayons, exercise books and all of that. And my uncle was also an artist. He was a painter, and I used to go to his room and see his artworks and everything, but I was not allowed to touch anything. So like I feel like these two upbringings, like from both grandparents' side, kind of influenced my work, like in hindsight, because as I was going, I never really saw the connection until later on when I discovered like jute sacks and everything started coming back, like the passion for it. Whenever I went to Jamestown, which is a place my grandparents are from, I always walk through the beaches and like the coastal area, some of the hoods or I don't call it the village per se, but then let me just say the villages there. And it all seems to be like a place where people think it's so like chaotic, like the walls are unpainted, things like that. But then I found beauty in it, and my art was slowly becoming a way of recreating what I was seeing. And as I started doing that, I started seeing a lot of social issues and tackling things on identity, like who I am as a Ghanaian, who we are as a people, and trying to understand why I have the gifts I have, why do I paint, why do I have all these things, and trying to understand purpose, identity, and also tackling some of the social issues we're seeing, or I was seeing in society, like even the rubbish being one of them, and I've tackled abuse as well, and using my art as a way of speaking to people. So in a way, you can call it, I like to call it beauty from chaos, like creating beauty out of chaotic things and letting it speak life into either people going through chaotic situations or just speaking life into people. So the work should uplift when people see it, and they shouldn't see the rubbish or the debris. They should just see, wow, a jute sack, a painting, something that has meaning, and they shouldn't just see, oh, something that was probably what inspired me. They should see the life that I'm hoping the painting should give. So that's a little bit about my work and the history and the inspiration that's led to my work. And with design, with design as well, I like to translate what I do artistically into the world of design. So whereas in the world of art, fine art, I like to use debris and things that have an aged feel. In the world of design, I like to use images or works that are aged as well, like whether it's open source, things that were used in 18 something and all of that. Like I like to use things that are not from my era and try to use them in a collage-like way to tell another story. So I'm really inspired by history, as you can tell, and things that were happening before my time, and seeing how that can either tell stories or help people also fulfill purpose and speak life. So whether it's art or design, this is the recurring theme, recurring themes that are in my work. Yeah.
Yeah, Dela, that's super inspiring. And I actually remember being in school with you, and this guy was always exploring and doing all kinds of things. And we actually thought you were going to be, I don't know, you're going to get into medicine for some reason, because you would catch these, I don't know, little insects and try to dissect them, and just so curious, And so it's incredible how far you've come, and how all these experiences from your upbringing, your family, and just all of it has sort of brought you to this point. And I see that your art has evolved, and it's just like, it's clear, it's clearly defined now, and it's exciting to me. So Dela, I'm wondering, you spoke a lot about recycling, upcycling, care for people, and a lot more. And I'm wondering, what's important to you at the moment as an artist, or in regards to your work?
What's important to me now is, I guess, the message behind the work and letting that go out, because to me, the message is important in all areas. Like if it's really speaking about a problem or impacting people, I feel like we need certain messages in the era we live in. Some are dealing with anxiety, some are dealing with different issues. Some want to fulfill that purpose and know why they were born and all of that. And I feel like the work I do is kind of like addressing these things. So that's kind of like the most important thing right now in the work. Like taking something from, you're given a background of the story from our days back in primary school. Like I remember one instance, it was like class 6, where I brought a box. I think it was made out of eardrops. I made it like a puppet or sort of ear, and I brought it to class, and I remember being laughed at that day for making like a puppet, because the teacher put it to the front of the class. And when I think about things like this, to me, I ask myself, I take myself out, like I don't even look at it like at me. I take it as, if a kid does that, what's the kid trying to do? And if I see people approaching me, like ask myself, what are they trying to do in life? Many people have been laughed at, many people have been ridiculed, many people feel like they don't know what they're doing. And to me, every time I meet someone and I'm doing work for them or I'm creating an exhibition, it's like, I know someone has a message, someone has already been brought down, and mine is, this message is going out there to really uplift them. So I always ask myself, how is this work going to impact X, Y, Z, or this other person? And again, going back to design, like bringing all these things in and helping people fulfill that purpose, I ask myself, how is the work I'm doing going to help this person really get to where they are getting to? Or with their views, I ask myself, how can we have more exhibitions? Like right now we are celebrating we're having the International Day of Violence Against Women and Girls. I think it's happening from 25th to the 10th of December. And I exhibited twice, I think, in the years previously. So with that, I ask myself, how can my work impact? How can it speak to people who have dealing with issues? How can I speak to survivors? And there are a lot of things to tackle, but then I feel like art has a way of speaking to people in a way that a typical documentary or a book might not, because it's very visual. People see it and it just moves them. So to me, in summary, the message is what's most important, how to really craft new messages and how to make sure that the work reaches as many people as possible so that they get that message. That's kind of like what's important right now.
That's incredible, Dela. And as you were speaking, you touched on the point about when you were in primary school and you brought that box and you did
the
what
puppet.
the puppet,
Yeah.
and you got laughed at and people couldn't misunderstood you and weren't sure what you're doing as a kid. And you said as a kid, what was like going through your mind? Like, why did you do that? And I think this is something that in regards to Ghana, this is something like most parents or the society doesn't really focus a lot on these things, like especially the artistic side of stuff. Most parents are interested in and supporting their kids to be doctors, lawyers, and stuff like that. So it's very limiting. And I think that this is really great that you pointed out. And I hope that, some of our listeners from Ghana, will be inspired by this. When you see your child doing something, trying to put something together, don't just ignore it, don't just laugh, try to understand why they're doing it, what they're trying to achieve, what's really in their head. So I really appreciate that you said that, because that was something similar with me as well when I was growing up in that community, in that place. So yeah, thank you for touching on that.
And just to add to that, I realized that like people actually don't really, it doesn't really change with age. Because even when that wasn't really parents, it was actually with classmates and a teacher, right?
Right.
Like, and even like fast forward growing up, like when I began the bag, I mean, now people see the bag and to them it makes sense. But when I began that bag, and even with the first paintings, everywhere I went, people ask, what are you going to use this for? Right. Like I go somewhere like a bar asking for bottle caps, and they're like, what do you use this for? And if you think about it, you need to kind of like walk and not feel like you're crazy. Because I have seen the bag with bottle caps at the bottom and it's made out of wood with old newspapers, but people are like, what do you need newspapers for? So like I constantly get asked that question. Like when I'm getting sacks from the market, people are like, why are you going to use a sack for? Because to them it's rubbish. Like, what do you need it for? Like, I go for like anything I get to use, it's always like that. And I'm more like, even when I was beginning the bags, even in-house, I was loud, like in the team. They're like, Dela, now you're going crazy. What have you brought to the studio? And it's like having to convince them because you've seen something. And to me, it's like not like knowing that you're not crazy. And I always go like, if you're really inspired and believe that this is you and this is an idea that has come from above for you to execute, you don't doubt it. Yes, you just go with it. And sometimes it's hard because you want to not like you want to be accepted, right? But then the question is, it's like kind of like going out of that. And I've always liked to do things that are not what everyone is doing, like, and that's why you realize that even the bags, everyone uses leather, but mine is how can I use wood and paper and all of that. And I feel like it's all coming from that time growing up, whereby it's always like you're doing something crazy and you just have to keep on pushing even though you look crazy. And later on people realize that, oh, it's what you're actually doing.
Right.
So yeah.
I think you're speaking on such an important topic that is, it's human nature that we want to be in a tribe and we want to be accepted. And for innovators and creators, we have to push outside of these boundaries, and it can really feel very isolating and lonely. But for me, when I, started also creating for myself and stuff, I found the internet and I found people online that maybe understood my work or what I was trying to say. It's because it can be very isolating, but you are in the end, it's so nice then to connect with people who understand you or, who understand your work and who have a deeper understanding of all these things. And touching on that, maybe, obviously we are exposed now to so much technology and social media as a way of communicating. What do you use? Like, what platforms are you currently using? And maybe what are the positive sides and the negative sides of these platforms and how you use them?
Okay, so like the various social media platforms I use, right? So I use Instagram. I'm trying to like actually limit the number I use because I have all of them, but then I'm trying to limit it to Instagram. Instagram mainly because it's a visual platform, and I now realize this cool feature which allows me to tag more than one page. And I guess that helps me with marketing because I can tag both the studio and myself and other people, and everyone's followers sees it, which I just discovered it last week actually. But then so Instagram the main one I use, and I used to use Facebook, but I guess the reach on all of them, they all have different reaches, I guess. But then I guess Instagram gave me what I needed what I need, because people are coming to a visual platform to see art or creative work, and that helps. I don't use Twitter because it's text and I'm working on art. So yeah, these are the main ones. Yeah, this is the main one I've narrowed down to, and my website, which is these are the main two.
So maybe what would you like, or what is kind of like hindering you? What are the blocks, and like what do you maybe want to see improve within the creative space and social media?
Yeah, I'll say curation, because let me just give an example of like on most platforms, like I can give examples, right? Can I add names or all that? Okay,
Yeah.
so like let me just say like Pinterest, right? I go on Pinterest and I'm always getting fresh images. I don't know where they're coming from, but then they kind of like know what I want to see, and it's always in line with what I want. I like that curation, so I'm able to discover new people whereby I don't like new people and new accounts. But and I feel like if, let's say, IG was like Pinterest, it would be easy to discover artists and discover artists' work. But then I think when you're using it, you're kind of like confined to a few people who might see your work. So then it makes kind of like a marketing a lot harder, And yeah, so I think making curation a thing in social platforms is kind of like going to help a lot of creatives. You get that? Yeah. So I think that's the basic thing that I can add, that once it's curated and maybe I just go online and I'm looking for abstract African art, I should be able to like easily have that curation coming to me in a very beautiful way, and yeah, rather than having to comb. I'm not a programmer, so I don't know if I'm not talking in a programming way, but yeah, but all I can say is that curation is what, curation really help in discovering new things that you've probably never seen before. Yeah, and if it's people who are looking for your type of work for whatever reason, they should easily find it, whether it's as hashtag or something that just help them easily find without moving through like a million accounts and all of that. So
like an algorithm based on what you want and not on what the platform wants. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because there's sometimes I go on a certain account, I'm like, I don't know what I'm even seeing these things. Like I'm not interested in this, but I'm seeing it. And it kind of like makes the usage lessen, because you're not coming for that. And your stuff are not being seen. So what's the point of being there? But then when
it's like less quality. You get less quality.
Right.
People get less exposure.
Exactly. Exactly. Because maybe like you probably, like everyone has a different reason for going somewhere, right? So if I go just say to laugh, I want to see just jokes. If I go to see African, I want to see is that, but I don't see something happening in town that I probably don't care about. And that being in my Explorer or my main feed, because then it destroys the experience, and then many people also don't discover you as well. So yeah, so I guess it's a problem that needs to be solved.
Right.
Yeah, I hope it makes sense.
No, yeah, you're making a lot of sense.
Okay.
Yes.
You're saying really good things right now, really important.
Yeah, and these are some of the things that we hope to see change in the creative economy, and that's why we're doing all this. And so yeah, I'm thinking, so what's actually happening now that you would avoid as Dela, as an artist?
What's happening now that I'll avoid?
Yeah, now in the world, or just anything at all. I'm just curious to know.
There's a lot happening in the world, actually.
Yeah, or it could be like a trend. Let's narrow it down.
Actually points out that I hate trends. Let me just point it out. I know hate is a strong word, but then I just like don't like trends. Like when I see the word trends, it makes me feel some way, because I feel like it's. I mean, you can. I was watching something recently, like Beyonce copies with taste. Like you can take and you modify it, but then when it becomes like a thing, it gets to a point like you can't differentiate one's work from another's work. Yes, and I have this belief that like when you take an artist, right, or creatives, we are all as unique as our fingerprints, right? So our evolution of being creative is finding what is within and who we're born with, right? So like trends is just a way of saying that, like trying to be somebody else. That's how I see it. It's like someone may disagree, I know, and it's cool, but then I feel like sometimes, and some trends are cool. Yeah, I like certain movements. I mean, we all go in certain art movements and incorporating in our work, which is cool. But like trends are something that I like to avoid usually, especially when it comes to design. because I feel like the design space, you can't really tell one designer from another. You know, so like graphic design in particular, or let's say web design, you can't really tell one from another. And that's one thing I like to avoid. Another thing I like to avoid, I have this saying that you need to pick your battles wisely. So even when it comes to social issues and tackling all that, like it's not everything that I want to speak about, because I mean, like, I'll stay away from political stuff. Like, that is not my battle. You know, you don't want to go against a government. That is not my place yet. And to me, like, things need, it's all tied to, let's say, who I feel like I am and where I'm going, and things that have influenced my upbringing. So I wouldn't just go and fight a battle for battle's sake, like being enrolled in something or being a part of something just because of, so I think this is the general. I've actually wrote it down. So I know, like, I'm not just going to put myself in anything. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
With the trend thing, you know, it's like right now when you see like there's a popular song and everyone is reusing the same song.
Exactly.
In the beginning, you might think, oh, that song is actually pretty cool. But then everyone it, and you just like, after you hear it like the 100th time, you're like, I don't even want to hear the song.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like sometimes when I'm scrolling through some of the social media platforms, I'm just like, I feel like I'm just watching a bunch of like zombies doing the same thing. Like even like there's a trend with makeup, and I'm like, everybody's looking the same, like twins and triplets, and you know, like everybody's starting to look the same and all of that. So I'm guessing that like you're saying that, or would you agree with me that artists or designers or creatives should set their own trends in a way?
That's what I strongly believe, and I feel like it helps everyone else, because if you come with your own trend and it inspires me, I just see how to modify it. Yeah. So if like the makeup trend, yours was blue face, I make mine a purple face. You know, then Joyce makes hers like a red face. Then we just keep modifying it, just keep going. But then if everyone is like blue face, I just scroll and it's like blue face. You know,
that can be frustrating.
It's kind of like to, you know, take inspiration, because I feel like also in fashion, or, you know, everyone is kind of like inspired by someone in art. Everyone, you know, you don't get your inspiration from nowhere, but the key is to change it up and to make it your own, and to invent and to innovate, you know, and that's just follow anything that you see and jump on the next kind of.
I remember a teacher once told me it's all been done, kind of. And I'm like, no, but I'm going to innovate something special. I don't want to believe that, you know, that bothered me so much. But in a way, a lot has been done, like way back, like periods and years ago. So much innovation happened. And now we have so much access to everything. And I feel like people are not really, we're just so comfortable, you know, so we're not really innovating like our ancestors did in a way, you know. So in a way, modifying and just like, inspiring others and each other is great.
You know, there's a lot of trends right now going on with like NFTs, artists getting into NFTs, and our audience would love to know, what are your experiences with crypto so far? Are you a member of any DAOs, or what do you see as the biggest challenges maybe with NFTs for artists?
Okay, so my experience so far NFTs, I downloaded some apps a while back. Like I tried to follow this online tutorial, and that actually got me nowhere for two reasons. I think one was that the account had to be open in certain countries, and I didn't see my country on the list. That was like for the payment. So I think I gave up on that process because it wasn't on the list. Not gave up, I just paused it. Then so that was like as far as I downloaded all the software. I think there was Rainbow, and there was a Meta something. There's a Fox as the logo. MetaMask, I got that as well. So that's as far as I've gone with it, just downloading the apps and trying to get it set up. And I ran into that roadblock with the country issue. And so that's as far. And I think if it has to do a challenge, I feel like the setup isn't as fluid as, let's say, signing up to it and having a new email account, like you just set up and you're doing that. It feels like you need to have like a ton of apps just to come on, and I think it shouldn't be that complicated. So that's, I'll say, the biggest challenge, because it should be something that I guess anyone could just, I mean, we all just go to banks, create accounts, right? It should be fluid, you know, or as setting up anything. And that I guess that will make a lot more people get on board, because I mean, you ask yourself, what's the point of having an NFT if a lot of people cannot even trade or auction or get anything because the process is so long? Yeah, so you might have your artwork there, but then it might be limited to just a few people. And I feel like to make it more open, or having a lot more people who can, to make it more even like a viable option to trade art, we need a lot more people having being able to easily sign up and to easily come on, to the platform. So I guess once that's solved, it will be a fun place and really great for a lot of things.
Sorry, but would you consider doing an NFT, or do you have ever thought about, I could do an
NFT
yeah, collection?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Like, what's it called? Like, I'm saying, like, when I was setting up the account, the goal was to actually trade some, but then I ran into those issues. So yes, like, definitely. Like, I'm not like, let's say, tech. Yeah, what was the word? Like, someone who's against tech, like anti-tech. I'm not anti-tech. I believe it's a future, and I definitely would like to see. See a lot more happening in that space, and definitely get work. Yeah, because I actually began doing my art before I got into, let's say, physical art. I was doing digital art, way before. Yeah, and this is another backstory. My friend convinced me to start painting, and it was a whole argument. But I felt like I wasn't. I didn't. I mean, Salimi knows this. I didn't learn painting, so it's like I'm like, why are you talking about me being a painter? Like, why should I? Because you're actually going to a gallery, 2 galleries that day. She was like, you need to start painting. And to me, painting was like a foreign thing. I was cool doing digital art and design and stuff. So that so basically I already began there. I have a background there. So anything digital and transitioning into an NFT, or even images of my work, or whatever it is to transition as an NFT, it's not a problem at all. It's all about like making the process very easy for both me and I guess anyone who is interested in my work as well. Yeah.
Right. I wanted to add that, with everything, there's like a process, you have to go through a process and steps and whatnot. But I'm really excited to say that the Newcoin protocol pretty much tries to, make it more user-friendly and more inclusive. And so, yeah, we're really excited about that, and hopefully, more creatives, especially those of us who are, in other countries who don't have access to, like you said, you go into this trouble of selecting your country. We hope that all this will be bridged, and everybody can access the social 3.0 platforms. So speaking of future digital and all of that, I'm wondering if obviously, I'm sure you've heard of the metaverse.
Yeah.
It's currently your favorite word. It's trending. So I'm wondering how that will impact your work, if you've thought about that, and also if you've thought about the potential unintended consequences. Like with everything, there's always that.
Yeah, I guess with me, like, as I mentioned, I'm not anti-technology. So once there's a deeper understanding of how this works, because I mean, if it's a space and people meet up in a space, the next thing is, what can we do to speak to people in a space? You get one might say, okay, I'm virtually exhibiting items, art, or speaking to people. Like that can be the first thing I would think about. Like, how can artists exhibit in the metaverse, or how can groups view? So I guess there might be online metaverse exhibitions, galleries to be online on the metaverse and all that. So I guess whatever it is, once there's the foundation or whatever it is for people to build upon, we'll easily understand how it works and be there. I mean, just as easy as we sign to any social media network, we can easily sign up to anything and build upon it. Yeah. I guess the thing is, it's always about how easy it is to get signed up or to join, not just for you, but everyone else. And once that happens, I feel like it's not a problem. Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, I'm glad that you're like open to the digital world, and then again, your favorite were these trends that are coming up. But then the point is, you can use it in your own way. You can use it to to tell your story, to still hold on to these values that you have, right? And for me, that's the most important thing. Whenever these trends come up, I ask myself, how does this connect with my value or what I believe in? And that's very important to me. So I might get into
also how can the world or you benefit
right,
from
of course. And so, yeah, I might get into it, but I just make sure that, I'm not losing myself, or trying to fit in or trying to be like everybody else. And so, yeah,
Exactly.
that's great.
If you would have, let's say, a gallery who would invest in you, like let's say $50,000 or something like that, how would you use that investment? Would you use that towards your project? Would you like to build, or just imagine having that? What would that mean to your work?
I guess it will mean a lot to my work because there are certain ideas that can only be done with a lot more investment. And that's kind of like why even the studio is diverse in the number of disciplines we tackle. Because one, it's like I learned this from instant artists, like you have like your self passion projects and you have like, let's say, commission projects, and each balances each out, right? So you're kind of like funding the bigger projects. And to me, like any investment goes into the project that in an actual sense will not have been funded by the studio, because they are like grand installations and grand ideas, but then it's which are very costly. You need to like pull in a lot of people, a lot of artisans, a lot of buying a lot of parts, like a lot of things. So I feel like to me, any investment goes straight there, and also like processing what I'll call debris or and these unused items takes a lot, like because they come in a very bad state. So like processing them takes a lot of like that chemical source. I use a lot of like building machine tools like jigsaws, like hammers, tools, all those things. So to me, like the bigger the project, the more the tools, and all of this comes with investment, and even for planning an exhibition to make sure that it goes as perfectly as it should go with.
Thank you, Dela. It's been super incredible having you, and we've had such an amazing conversation with you. I'm wondering if there are any thoughts or any last words you'd like to share with our audience, especially coming from Ghana and this idea of recycling, repurposing. I'm sure, or I've actually seen that there are a lot of other Ghanaian artists who are trying to get into that space. And so what encouragement or what words would you like to leave with them today?
Encouragement, wow. I guess if it's encouragement, I'll say let's keep upcycling. It's in the car, but to be more serious, I guess my last, let's say, takeaway or last things I'd like to say is just basically that in all that we do as, I guess, creatives and everything, there's always like, I guess all to me, like mine is about focusing on more than just the aesthetic, but then what it really speaks about, or how that impacts somebody else. And I guess generally, like a lot of other industries think a lot more about people and a lot about society, right? Like let's take Newcoin, thinking about the Newcoin is that Newlife and Newcoin. So whether it's like social, bringing people together or helping creatives, and even other industries are thinking of ways to help people. Most artists might think only about themselves, like, oh, I think I have a talent. Let me just use this to paint a flower and hopefully they'll buy. When they don't buy, I feel they don't like me, But then one thing I've always thought about, and the reason why I even started working on the bags later on, was that I started thinking about how do we create something not just for a wall, like, or just because I think it's nice, but then how do you create something that's function that can serve a purpose? And I think in doing that, I started studying Africa, like ancient African art. And one of the things I realized was that a lot of old African art forms were very functional. Like you take all those cave writings or the hieroglyphics in the tombs and all that, like you take even the mask worn during rituals and all those festivals. And I mean, there's a long list. Even the textiles were worn by royalty, and each one has a different meaning. So I realized that like all African art or historic African art has like meaning. And I realized that we are wired for meaning. We want to know why something exists. It's not just about the beauty was like an added benefit, but the thing is that it served a huge function. And even going to other civilizations, I mean, the Vikings, you see the ships really beautiful, but then it was a ship, but then you see all these ornamentals and these carvings on it and everything. So to me, the idea of creating art for oneself just because it's nice. I feel like that's like an outdated thing. And many artists feel like people don't like them because they did something nice and no one wanted it. But then I realized that really doing something to solve a problem in society and really addressing something is always the added thing we should focus on as artists, that we should think as problem solvers.
Right.
And not just, I have this gift, I went to art school, and I feel like people should want what I have. Because the truth is that no one owes us anything. No one is, like we don't just feel like, okay, I painted a good flower, so someone needs to buy it. The question is, what is this person dealing with today, and how will this flower make them feel? Yeah. And how can we incorporate that thinking into what we are doing? I feel like that's where all these movements and things come in, because all of a sudden you are doing something beyond that. So yes, I guess I'll just be my key takeaway, that generally art being beyond just aesthetics is, that's my mantra, what I like to go with. And I guess that's why I even love using upcycled materials, because at the end of the day, my mind is on the fact that we are solving a problem, we are tackling something, and it has to look good. It has to like fit in a space and look good, obviously, and not look like garbage in a room,
Right.
But then it's also like solving a problem. So yeah.
And there's so much art and like fashion as well. I see right now that it's like you see it and you're not really thinking, oh, this is like made from secondhand material, or this is, and that's great, I think. And what you're saying, that you should think about the impact out of yourself, what kind of impact you can make, is really like an artist but also entrepreneur like spirit. I think that's really great to give to say to our audience. So thank you so much, Dela, for being here today.
Thank you as well for having me again.
It's amazing doing business for the good of the people, and not just, about the benefits for the individual. That's incredible. Thank you, Dela. It was super insightful. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
And Dela, where can our listeners find you on social media? And also maybe if you want to mention your website so they can check out your amazing art.
Okay, so social media on Instagram is Dela.Anyah. That's DELA.ANYAH, and everywhere else is without the dot. So that is
cool.
So
amazing. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. And if you want to get more involved in our community and be part of the ecosystem, follow us also on Instagram. It's newcoin.nco, and we're going to put a link to our Telegram chat with all the updates into the bio. And thank you so much, Dela. Thank you, Salini, for being part of today's episode.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Dela. See you next time.
See you next time.
Bye-bye. Thank you.